In this video, we are going to learn about the loops in Apex. First, let's try to understand what is a loop in programming. Loop is a special programming concept or statement using which we can execute a block of code repetitively until we want it to stop. This concept is useful especially when we work over the collections like set, list, or maps in Apex. These are the types of loops available in Apex: do while, for. Let's take a look at these one by one. Do while. This is made up of two statements, do and while. Here is the syntax of this loop. It should start with the statement do followed by an opening and curly brace marking the scope of the loop, which in turn is followed by the statement while. The statement while is then followed by a bracket which contains the condition that will be checked by Apex to decide whether the repetitive execution of the do block should be stopped or not. If the condition in the while block is evaluated to true, the do block execution will continue, and the while statement is evaluated to false, the do block execution will stop. After every execution of the do block, the while condition will be evaluated. Let's go ahead and try this out in developer console. So here in the execute anonymous Apex window, we will create a do while block. Once we click on execute, we can notice that the system.debug statement got executed 10 times. Now let's learn about the while statement. This is similar to the do while statement. However, this does not contain the do statement, which means that the block of code will execute on when the condition in the while evaluates to true. Let's take a look at the syntax. As you can see the syntax, the do statement is missing. Also, the block is coming after the while statement. Let's try to execute this in the developer console's execute anonymous Apex window. Comparing this with the do while statement, we can notice that the block of code will get executed after the while condition gets evaluated to true. However, in the case of do while, the block of code will executed first and then the condition gets evaluated. Let's try this out in the execute anonymous Apex again. See, in the case of do while, the block do execute even the condition did not evaluate to true. Now let's learn about the for loop. There are two variations of the for loops in Apex. First is for, which has three attributes: initialization, boolean exit condition, and index manipulation. The second one has two attributes: variable and set or list. Let's learn about each of these one by one. The for loop with initialization, boolean exit condition, and index manipulation. This is also known as the traditional for loop. It starts with the keyword for followed by a bracket. Inside the bracket we have initialization, boolean exit condition, and index manipulation. The initialization is done for the loop index variable. This determines what will be the initial value of the index variable. Index is very important in this type of for loops, as the rest of the two statements, that is boolean exit condition and index manipulation, depends on it. The boolean exit condition is the condition that if evaluates to true causes the execution of the following code block, which is enclosed in the opening and closing curly braces. The index manipulation is the statement that also gets executed at the end of the execution of the code block. Here is how all the statements in this for loop gets executed. Initialization. This gets executed only once before the code block gets executed. Boolean exit condition. This gets executed every time before the code block gets executed. Index manipulation. This gets executed every time after the code block gets executed. Let's try to understand this with an example. Here in the execute anonymous window of the developer console, we will create a for loop that will print the value of index 10 times. Basically, whatever we implemented in the last two examples of the do and do while loops, we will try to implement something similar using the for loop. In this, we create a for loop and we create a variable index and initialize it to 1. In the Boolean exit condition, we specify that the index should be less than or equals to 10. And in the index manipulation, we specify the increment of index variable by the value 1. In the code block, we write the statement system.debug to print the output in the Apex logs. Now, if you look at the output, it's the similar to that of the do and do while loops. Let's now try to understand the other variant of the for loop, which is for, which accepts the attributes variable, and list or set. If you look at the syntax, you will notice the difference in the code that's inside the for bracket. Variable will represent an element in the set or list that we will provide after the colon. The list or set is a variable of either set or list type that we pass as the parameter to this for loop. The Apex will read the set or list elements one by one and store each element that it reads into that variable. This variable we can use inside the for loop's code block to refer to that variable or its attributes if that variable is a non-primitive data type. If you want to learn about the set or list, which are called as collections in Apex, you can check our video by clicking on the I button that's appearing now at the right top of the screen. After going to that video, you can seek to the movement at 4 minutes 41 seconds. Now let's try to understand this variant by executing a code in the Execute Anonymous Apex window. If you look at the code, we created a list variable lst integers which we initialized using 10 integer values. In the for loop, we specified the variable integer index for the list lst integers. And inside the for loop code block, we refer to the variable index to print the value of the variable.
If you like this video, please do like and share. If you want to receive more of such informative content, please hit the subscribe button. If you want us to make content related to any Salesforce or Salesforce related topic, please do let us know through comments.